I have got to break in here really, really quick. This is after I got the video done. I'm going to have to stitch this video together. YouTube and Dabu7, whoever this is, apparently a live streamer, Pure Blood. Oh, yeah, very, very cool, I guess. Wow. Truth Speaker, Knowledge, whatever this guy is. He's a piece of garbage. Pulling some BS, filing a false copyright takedown of the video that I had just shown right here. That's crazy, actually. That's wild. So, he says, you're a scumbag POS. And he goes, I thought these people were just, the quartering here. I thought these people were just asking questions now. When you ask questions, they take down your video? Yeah, crazy how that works. These people, Candace Owens, Carrol, and now this guy. You know what I mean? They're all grifters. If you question them, they will come after you. And you'll notice that in my comment section. Please check it out. Anyway, guys, let's get on with the video. Hey, everyone. How's it going? So, today would have been Charlie's 32nd birthday, as Jack Posobiec says. And it turns out I was wrong. I thought he was turning 33 this year, but that wouldn't make sense because I am also turning 33 this year. I don't know why I had it in my head that I was already 33. Maybe, I guess it's because my wife is like 4 months older than me, so, when she's 33, I just assume I'm 33. I guess that's just how it works, right? Anyway, this is a really, really, really silly post from me and Carrol, and it's absolutely horrendous because it just doesn't even make sense. Charlie will be forever 31 because a violent leftist sought to silence his words with a bullet, but they failed. Charlie's voice is louder than ever, and his TPUSA legacy will endure forever. Then he says, it wasn't a violent leftist, Jack. Why are you spinning a narrative on your friend's grave? Well, who specifically was it that Carrol? This is what's so unbelievably stupid about Candace Owens and Carrol both about this conspiracy theory. First and foremost, just because, let's just say, straight up Israel did it. Let's just put the full blame on Israel. Why couldn't it still be a violent leftist that they hired to do it? Was it somebody specifically with a towel on their head? I don't know. Was it anybody with, a really, really, really abnormally large nose? Well, we don't have any proof that it was anybody else other than the person on the roof. And as I have stated many, many times, they make coyote shot for 308 round that specifically goes in that rifle. Yeah, it's meant to take out coyote. In other words, it's not meant to come out of the other side of a coyote. The 18 to 45 pound dog that runs around wild, that eats up people's, cattle and, just in general livestock, goats, sheep, all that good stuff. Chickens, especially chickens. They make shot for that for 308 to take out a coyote between 100 and 150 yards. I showed it on the channel many times. And these people think, well, surely he wouldn't buy that round. Are you sure about that? It's actually the cheapest rounds you can buy. Being a broke college dropout that lives with his trans boyfriend, I could easily see him going to the store and going, oh, this works. This is the rounds that go into the weapon. Oh, the cheap ones? Yeah, let's do that. I don't think he understood necessarily the difference between 50 grain and 220 grain. Or maybe he did. Maybe he didn't want anybody on the other side to get hurt. I don't know. I have no clue what went through his head or what he purchased or what he had that was fired off. I have no idea. Now, maybe they should release the exact type of bullet that, ended up going through Charlie. That would solve a lot of issues right there. But at the end of the day, I can tell you this. If they're lying, they might as well say, yeah, okay, these are all the issues that have come out. Now we know people are questioning the validity of the bullet that went there, or that went through his neck. If they're lying, they'll go ahead and be like, nope, this is the exact round right here, 50 grain. That's what they would do, right? And if they're telling the truth, guess what they're going to do? Yeah, they're going to show the 50 grain. Kind of a tough position to be in now, huh? Because of this whole thing. But at the end of the day, it exists, and it's possible. And the fact that it's possible when they're saying it's impossible pokes a lot of holes in their conspiracy theory. So he says it definitely wasn't a violent leftist, and it's just like, this is exactly it. It's like, okay, well then who was it? Specifically, right? Tim Pool kind of goes goes off on this. And we'll get to that in a second. But before we do, he actually ends up sparring with Viva Frei. So he says, I have had Ian Carroll's show on for a discussion in the past. I am inviting him back on so I can ask him questions so he can explain what evidence he has to substantiate his opinion. Public invite Ian, come back on. Then this guy says he doesn't have any. He never does. He has done this over and over, and yet people still give him a platform. Just like with the black insurrectionist Tim Walz hoax and the RFK Jr. being owned by the Jews and scandal and all this stuff, just like Iran, just like Trump being owned by the Jews. Yeah, pretty much, right? We go back, and he says, if he doesn't come back on, I will only be able to conclude that he does not have any meaningful evidence to substantiate his suspicions. This was all 12 hours ago, by the way. And then this guy says, there's plenty of meaningful evidence meriting suspicion. Charlie's own concern to friends. He quotes, I'm worried that Israel will end me if I keep speaking out against them. That has never been released. That quote has never been proven. Then he says he continues speaking out. He gets ended. It should never have been taboo to suspect based on those events. But there's a gospel narrative at work, because this is a psyop. Question the gospel Tyler conclusion, and you're doubting mRNA. Yeah, okay, in 2021, heretic. Good Lord, really? Man, this guy could string together anything, can't he? Now he said this. You seem to have put a direct quote, something which, as far as I know, is only attributed to Charlie through third-party hearsay. Did Charlie actually say, I'm worried that Israel will do this if I keep speaking out against them? Or did you turn into a direct quote which was only reported as a rumor from Candace Owens about what someone told her Charlie told them? Serious question. That said, even assuming it's true for the sake of the argument, Charlie was literally talking about the prevalence of as he was ended by someone with an apparent tie to exactly what Charlie was, most vocal about. So in terms of proximity, one is much more proximate to the act than the other. So why do you place more value in your theory about Israel being the plotter and not the trans terrorist? Do you have any actual evidence or merely suspicion and doubts, and so you are disregarding what appears to be actual evidence to posit your theory in the absence of concrete evidence? All questions I would ask Ian Carroll. And then this person says, he did say that if you want direct proof that is coming. And then, of course, we get to, he said it, there's direct proof. The direct proof is coming. Translation, there's no currently existing direct proof to substantiate the allegation. And people wonder why these foolish arguments are not taken seriously. And this is exactly correct. The problem is Candace Owens, Ian Carroll, and all of these people arguing have gotten their cart way in front of their horse. That's exactly the issue. Could evidence exist? Yes. I'm not saying it doesn't, but it has not been released, and it has not been verified by anybody who is reporting on this. This has all been third parties saying, hey, there's a quote here, it's going to come out soon. And they're like, oh my gosh, we got to report this. And it's like, well, you don't have to report it. You could sit on this and wait a little bit. Or at least you could say, hey, this is supposedly coming out, but we don't know yet. But that's not what they did. They said, oh, we got this evidence. This is here. So to go on to Tim Pool, he just released this video, The Truth Behind Charlie Kirk. This was literally, when I looked at it, it was 40 minutes ago, and I put this on here, but his head would have been dangling from skin after that much energy. Oh, really? But a 18 to 40 pound coyote would not? Dude, did you read what I said? That's crazy that these people, So, that's just insane. They make 50 grain 308 round for ending coyotes between 100 and 150 yards, the cheapest round, and definitely would be stopped by Charlie Kirk's vertebrae. Candace has lost her mind. I explained this several times if you want to see. And it says, yes, but his head would have been dangling from skin after that much energy dumped that quick. It's for a 45-pound dog at the biggest, 18-pound at the smallest. And you're telling me that they have better bone structure than humans? For real. Let me just see. Do coyotes have more dense bones than humans? I just gotta see. Is it true? Coyotes generally have lighter and more flexible bones compared to humans. Why would they make a coyote round? Look, 0.308 OD round. Come on. Like, it's literally Winchester for coyote. Okay, here we go. 308 Winchester for coyote hunting. There's that. This isn't the right one, though. That's not... I don't think that's the right one. Let me put just 50 grain. It's typically used for coyotes. It's the green box. What is it? This green box right here. Remington. Oh, it's Winchester though. Does that matter? It's Winchester, and I have no idea. But anyway, it's Remington rounds. 308. They have a bullet weight. Let's see, 200 yards. I don't know what any of this means. I'm sorry. I can't read these charts, guys. I'm not a gun expert. But the fact of the matter is they make them for coyotes. And that tells me all I need to know. With the coyote being smaller, with it being less dense, bone substance, density, whatever, you know? It's crazy to me that the coyote bodies can keep them in without them going through. Because when a round is specifically made for something, it's made so it doesn't penetrate all the way to the other side, so therefore you do not hurt somebody else. That's the whole point. That's why if you live out in the country and you don't know what it is, if you don't know this basic fact, do not ever fire around at anything in the country. Okay? This is how people lose their lives. Too many people don't know this. Way too many people do not know this, okay? Coyotes and other animals have special rounds made for them, so when you fire off at them, you don't hit your neighbor. Understand? There's a reason why they make weaker shots. It's not because you're weak. It's because you don't want to hurt somebody. If you don't know that, now you do. If you've shot something off that was like, 220 grain at, firing off at any, fox or anything like that in your backyard, and you're like, oh man, I'm going to make sure I really get it. This bullet's so powerful and strong that I know I won't miss. So at the end of the day, you could probably hurt somebody, because if you go through that animal and you end up, hitting your neighbor's house, that's a very, very dangerous situation. But anyway, let's listen to Tim Pool here for a little bit.
I've had a lot of people ask me about what happened to Charlie Kirk and theories over what's really going on. And there are a lot of questions. I don't think we know exactly what's happening, and I don't think it is wrong for people to be inquisitive. There are several videos, notably the one that I have displayed, where they're claiming this man has a palm gun. Now, palm guns are things. They exist, but I'm going to go ahead and say no. The first thing I want to say to everybody as it pertains to this story is, in the absence of evidence, the solution that makes the least amount of assumptions tends to be correct. That is Occam's razor. Now, when I look at all of these different theories over the alternative story as to what really happened to Charlie Kirk, none of it makes sense, and it is a cluster. But I will also add, the official story that we're being given, I'd argue, is also lacking in information, which you would expect. I'm not saying there's evidence of anything. Absence of evidence is not evidence of something. But I would say that there's questions around what we are looking at in this official story. That is to say, a few points. The official transcript of the communication between the alleged shooter and his boyfriend seems by any reasonable mind to be scripted. Literally every political faction thinks so, even MAGA. Now, the liberals are putting out these memes where they claim that MAGA just wholly believes it outright. Well, I'll just point out, Matt Walsh said this right away. It looks like it was scripted, just like in Breaking Bad, as though the shooter wrote this to create some kind of, indemnification or exculpatory evidence for the boyfriend when this goes to trial.
Anyway, so yeah, and I agree with that, but we don't know, because leftists are weird. They're very, very weird. So I could believe that bad dialogue was actually real, because they're super cringe. And that's kind of my whole point on it. But at the end of the day, Tim, and I don't want to take away his whole video here, guys, go watch it. What he does is he points out that this guy at this angle fires it like this. With a palm pistol. Doesn't really have any grooves in the barrel. And you have to rotate the thing out in order to fire multiple shots anyway. And he would have done it at this angle. He would have been a heck of a shot. I would bet money on a dumb kid firing a rifle with a scope that's been sighted in very well, making that shot, over this guy doing this number and pop, and like just looking over, not aiming at all. He has to do it essentially hip fire, for a lack of better terms. Obviously not down at his hip, but the whole point of hip fire is you're aiming with your body. So, you do this wherever, like if you line it up with your shoulder, essentially wherever you point it with your shoulder is kind of where it'll go in general. The only issue that I really have with it for the most part is just the fact that it's going to be a much, much, much smaller round. It's not going to be like a shotgun, which is what you would normally typically want to hip fire, right? It's going to be a single round coming out, so you have to make sure you're accurate, and that bullet's not going to have very great spin on it. It's just not. If they did bother to bore it, which I doubt, I have my doubts that the barrel is bored. So, it's the likelihood of that happening, very, very low. Not impossible, but I wouldn't want to bet on it, because if it misses, then the agent here, the guy who's working for whatever government, whoever, officer, FBI, now it's going to be directly tied to him. And now his credentials are going to get pulled. And then we're going to see, this was that's a great way to just have everything unfold. So Tim makes a few other good points. He talks about how, they could have just simply came out and said that there was an exit wound if that was actually genuinely an issue. Especially if there is an exit wound, they would have been like, yeah, it exited. If there was an exit wound on Charlie Kirk, why would the government say there was no exit wound? Because here's the thing, right? If it's that impossible for that rifle to not do that, who do you think is going to know better? FBI and the military or the civilians? Who do you think is going to be a little bit more knowledgeable on exactly what kind of kinetic energy is going to go through a human body? Who do you think? The people who use it every day, who go to war and see it happen, or us civilians? I'm gonna guess that they knew. I'm gonna take a wild guess that they knew that this would have been like a decapitating shot, right? Otherwise, if they didn't know, why wouldn't they have just used the rifle? Everyone's like, no, it couldn't have, because that would have decapitated him, so they're lying and stuff. And it's like, well, obviously the government would have known that too. So guess what? The government would have probably just come out and said there was an exit wound. It's not like the public saw anything. They could have made anything up that they wanted to. So why do you guys think that this would be any different? I am very curious. Why do you all think that they would have just put, oh, we got caught, we're not going to make anything else up, so we just got to start divulging the truth? That doesn't make any sense, guys. That makes zero sense. So then he goes through and he shows, like, Charlie Kirk here, and they're showing, like, this streak. I've seen a lot of people share this specifically, saying that this was from the back of the neck, that this is going in. The only issue is you see the shirt up and his neck down and everything. Why would he react before the bullet hit him? That's a little unusual, because this is after it hits him. His shirt's up, he's tucked in, he had just gotten hit. But the camera caught the bullet right here. So he's shot from the back, huh? Here's the problem with that. Even a 45 round. The fact of the matter is we see the hole, which means there's an exit hole. It doesn't matter what kind of round it was at all. That means the hole in his neck would have been an exit wound. And you're telling me nobody got sprayed with any fluids. Nobody got hit with that bullet. That makes less sense. That makes way less sense. So it just doesn't matter at all. Like, until we get more evidence, there is absolutely no reason to buy into this. Okay, Ian Carroll's off his gourd. Okay. Candace Owens is off her gourd. They are completely and totally insane. This is wild. It's such an insane thing to say, okay, well, we know who it wasn't, but we don't know who it was. But we're going to insinuate who it was and blame Israel. And also, Candace blaming Egypt as well. Because a flight for Egypt took off hours before Charlie Kirk was ended. They landed there hours before Charlie Kirk was ended. They took off and went back home before Charlie Kirk was ended. They never came back. So I guess we still have those Egyptian soldiers that came over that for some reason would have flown Israelis to come and do the job. Really? That doesn't make any sense at all either. Guys, until you have direct proof, maybe shut up, or maybe give a bit more nuance. Be like, oh, this is weird information. I don't know. And, but instead of pointing the finger, maybe you should get your evidence straight first. Thank you all so much for watching. Please like, subscribe, and share, guys. Go down to my description below to join my Discord. Thank you all again, and I'll see you guys here in the next one. Later.